Hey, my name is Caleb Morris. I am 37 years old and I repair clocks and watches in a narrow little shop beside the old train depot in Mercer Ridge. Most mornings, I unlocked my door before the fog lifted off the tracks. The sign above my window said Morris Clock Repair in faded gold letters my father painted when I was 12. Inside, everything ticked. Wall clocks, mantel clocks, pocket watches, kitchen timers, anniversary gifts, broken heirlooms people brought in wrapped in hand towels like injured birds. I liked broken things. They made sense to me. If a spring lost tension, I could replace it. If a gear slipped, I could clean the teeth and set it back where it belonged. People were harder. Every morning, I made coffee in the back room and set 2 mugs on the counter out of old habit. One for me, one for my father, though he had been gone 6 years. Most days, I caught myself looking at that second mug and quietly putting it back in the cabinet. Nobody stayed long in my shop. They came in with something broken, waited while I fixed it, thanked me, and left with time working again in their hands. Across the platform, Nora Ellis's voice filled the depot. "Southbound train to Briar Junction arriving on track 2. If you're headed home tonight, you're nearly there." She had been the station announcer longer than I had owned the shop. Warm voice, careful words. Never rushed, even when the rest of the world seemed determined to hurry itself into the ground. I had fixed watches for half the town. Nora helped the other half get home. That was how I knew something was wrong the morning the railroad men arrived with a banner, a rolling speaker, and a silver case full of wires. The fog was still low on the tracks when Martin Vale stepped onto the platform in a navy coat that looked too clean for our depot. 2 younger employees followed him, carrying a folded sign that read, "Welcome to the future of regional rail." Nora stood near the ticket window with her clipboard pressed to her chest. She wore her station badge, her grey cardigan, and the same calm smile she used for delayed trains, lost passengers, and children who cried when the horn blew. But her hands told the truth. They trembled once when Martin shook them. I was across the platform, adjusting the old depot clock, which had been losing 4 minutes every morning. Nora glanced at me for half a second, then looked away before I could nod. Martin clapped his hands. "Today, we begin the transition to automated announcement service. Cleaner, faster, more consistent." A few commuters barely looked up from their phones. Old Mrs. Hanley, who took the 8:10 to visit her sister every Thursday, frowned. The new speaker crackled. A polished artificial voice filled the depot. "Train to Briar Junction, arriving track 2. Transfer available for Millstone, Carver Falls, and Elmsborough." Nora's mouth tightened. It had pronounced Briar like a wound, and Elmsborough like a stranger's password. A boy near the bench looked up, confused. "Mum, is that our train?" Nora stepped forward before anyone asked her to. "That is Briar Junction," she said gently. "And yes, sweetheart, that's yours. Track 2. You've got time." Martin's smile thinned. There will be a learning curve. Nora nodded as if she had not just watched a machine misname the towns she had carried in her voice for 18 years. By noon, the timetable board above the main doors began flickering. It always did when rain came in from the west. I was in my shop, cleaning the face of a brass carriage clock, when my door opened fast enough to make the bell snap against the glass. Nora stepped inside. For a moment, she just stood there, beneath the hanging clocks, breathing like she had walked too far in bad weather. The artificial voice outside was repeating itself, mispronouncing Mercer Ridge as Mercenary Ridge, and nobody from the railroad seemed to notice. I set down my cloth. "Nora?" She looked toward the platform, then back at me. Her badge caught the grey light. Her voice, the one that had guided strangers home for years, came out small. "Please don't let them replace me with a machine." The words were barely louder than the ticking around us. I did not tell her they could not. I did not make promises bigger than my hands could hold. I looked at the trembling fingers wrapped around her clipboard and thought about all the times her voice had made the depot feel less lonely. So I said the only honest thing I could. "Then teach me your route." She blinked. "What?" "Teach me what it gets wrong. The towns, the people, the parts that aren't on their schedule." Her eyes shone, but she straightened before a tear could fall. "I'm not asking you to rescue me." "I know." "I don't want pity, Caleb." "Good," I said. "I'm bad at pity." That almost made her smile. I nodded toward the depot clock through my front window. "But I can fix that clock, and I can write down what the machine keeps missing. If they want to call this progress, they should at least be forced to see what they are throwing away." Nora looked at me for a long second. Outside, the fake voice said Elmsborough again. She closed her eyes, then gave one quiet laugh without joy. "All right," she said. "If I teach you, you follow my rules." I reached for a fresh notebook from under the counter. "Name them." She sat in the wooden chair by my workbench but did not relax into it. "First, you don't talk over me." "I won't." "Second, you don't make me sound helpless." "I won't." "Third, if I decide I'm done, I'm done." I paused with the pen above the page. "That one matters most." Her face softened just enough for me to notice. "Yes." I wrote it down. Nora leaned forward and tapped the notebook. "And you need to understand something. This station is not just announcements. Mrs. Hanley needs a slower reminder because she gets nervous when the platform changes. The Millstone School Group always counts the second bell, not the first. Mr. Avery can't hear track numbers unless I say them twice. The last train from Briar carries people who have been working since dawn. And when I say, 'You're nearly home,' some of them look like they needed permission to believe it." I wrote as fast as I could, but not too fast to listen. When she finished, the shop had gone quiet, except for 30 clocks keeping 30 slightly different kinds of time. I said, "Tomorrow morning? Coffee?" She lifted one eyebrow. "For the route lesson," I added, "not pity." "Black," she said. "I remember." She stood, then stopped at the door. "You never ordered coffee for me before." "No," I said. "But every morning at 6:40, you tell the man in the red cap that the cafe opens late on Mondays. You take yours black from the vending machine because you don't have time to cross the street." Nora stared at me like being noticed was more dangerous than being ignored. Then she opened the door and walked back into the station. The next morning, I repaired the depot clock before sunrise. The job was simple. Dust in the movement, loose bracket, hands slightly bent from years of someone forcing them forward after outages. I cleaned the gears, tightened the mount, and reset the time by my best pocket chronometer. Nora arrived while I was still on the ladder. "You're early," she said. "So is the 6:18 when the weather's clear." Her mouth twitched. Show off. I climbed down and handed her the coffee. Black, no lid, because she said the plastic lids smelled like burnt pennies. She took it carefully. You wrote that down? I listen better with a pen. For the next week, Nora taught me the depot the way someone might teach a person to read a family Bible. Not with sentiment, but with respect. She showed me how the timetable board lied when the wind was high, how the speaker near track 3 popped before failing, how the east platform flooded near the second bench. She pointed out the passengers without making them feel watched. That little girl in yellow, she said one morning. Her father works nights. She gets scared if the platform changes because she thinks he won't find her. Later, when the automated voice sent the Briar train to track 1 by mistake, I saw Nora step toward the microphone. Then she stopped, looked at Martin's temporary staff, and looked at me. I nodded once, not to give permission, only to say I was there. She picked up the microphone. Correction for Briar Junction, she said. Track 2, same as always this morning. Yellow backpack, your dad is already waiting by the newspaper stand. The little girl turned, saw her father, and ran. That same afternoon, Mrs. Hanley dropped her ticket under the bench. I reached for it, but Nora beat me there, kneeling carefully in her skirt and cardigan. Slow is still moving, Nora told her. Mrs. Hanley patted her arm. That's why we need you, dear. Nora looked away quickly, but I saw her tuck that sentence somewhere safe. By Friday evening, she came into my shop after the last train and set her clipboard on my counter. You're not doing this because you need something to fix, are you? The question landed closer than she knew. I wiped my hands on a rag. Maybe I started there. Her face closed a little. But I'm learning the difference, I said. A broken clock needs my hands. A person deserves my attention. Those aren't the same thing. Nora looked at the second mug on my counter, the one I had stopped putting away when she came by in the mornings. That chair used to be your father's, she asked. I nodded. Do you want me to stop sitting there? No, I said. I think he'd be glad somebody finally argued with me from it. This time her laugh was real. Rain came hard the following Tuesday, turning the tracks silver and making the depot smell like wet wood and old iron. Nora and I were in the back office, sorting through printed route notes because Martin had asked for legacy input before the farewell ceremony. Nora hated that phrase. Legacy input, she said, sliding papers into piles. That sounds like something you put in a box before you throw it out. I was tightening the loose screw on the microphone stand. You could tell him that. I did. How did it go? He said I was emotional. That means you made sense in a way he couldn't chart. She looked over at me, surprised, then shook her head. You're quieter than people think, Caleb. I've had practice. The rain filled the pause between us. Nora held one old route sheet longer than the others. It had stains at the edges and her handwriting in the margins. After my divorce, she said, I didn't know where to put my voice. I stopped turning the screwdriver. She kept her eyes on the paper. At home, everything I said became evidence. Too much, not enough, too careful, too tired. When I came here, people needed simple things. Which train, which track, how long until home? I could answer that. I built my whole life around being useful in a way nobody questioned. Her thumb moved over the paper's corner. And now a machine says the same words without knowing what any of them mean. I wanted to say something that would fix the hurt. Instead, I set the screwdriver down and leaned against the desk, leaving space between us. "My father left me this shop," I said. "For years, I thought people came to me because I mattered. Then I realized they came because their clocks did. Their wedding watch, their grandmother's mantel clock, their son's graduation gift. I was the man who made other people's memories run." Nora looked up. "When nothing needed repair," I said, "I wasn't sure anyone would choose me just to stay." Her expression changed, not into pity, but recognition. "That's a lonely way to be useful," she said. "Yes." She folded the route sheet and placed it in the keep pile. "Then maybe we both know too much about being needed and not enough about being wanted." The microphone stand was fixed. Neither of us reached for it. For a little while, we just listened to the rain and the ticking of the repaired station clock beyond the wall. Martin Vale returned 2 days before the ceremony with a camera crew, a blue ribbon, and a speech printed on thick paper. He gathered a few passengers near the bench and positioned Nora beside the new speaker as if she were part of the old equipment being replaced. "After 18 years of cheerful service," he said, "Ms. Ellis will be helping us celebrate a seamless transition into a more efficient future." Nora's shoulders went very still. I stood by my shop door with my hands in my pockets because she had told me not to talk over her. Martin turned to her. "Nora, maybe you can say a few words about embracing change." She took the microphone. The crowd quieted. "I believe in change," she said. "Trains change. Towns change. People change because life asks them to. But I don't believe care is inefficient." Martin's smile hardened. "Of course, and that spirit is exactly what the new system will honor." "No," Nora said calmly. "A system cannot honor what it does not know." A murmur moved through the station. Martin stepped closer, lowering his voice but not enough. "Nora, the town has already moved on. Let's make this graceful." For 1 second, I thought she might hand him the microphone and walk away. Instead, she looked at the passengers, then at me. I did not move. I only stayed. Nora gave Martin back his microphone. "Graceful does not mean silent." Then she walked to the ticket window and helped Mrs. Hanley find her return train. It should have felt like a victory, but that evening, as the 7:12 from Briar rolled in under a bruised purple sky, the automated system came alive while Nora was speaking. "Final arrival for Briar Junction," the machine said over her voice. "Passengers may collect belongings and exit." Nora stopped mid-sentence. Her hand hovered over the microphone. The passengers looked up, confused by the two voices, one warm and one empty. Martin's assistant hurried to the control panel, pretending it was an accident. Nora looked across the platform at me. There was no anger in her face. That was worse. It was the look of someone who had expected pain and still found it colder than she imagined. She removed her badge. I watched her place it on the counter beside her station keys. Then she walked out through the side door into the evening fog. I waited long enough to respect the rule she had made. If she was done, she was done. But when I went back to my shop, the second coffee mug sat untouched on my counter from that morning. Her notebook was there too, open to a page where she had written 3 words in the margin. People need welcome. I found her on the wooden bench behind the old freight office, where the tracks curved toward the ridge.
She had her coat wrapped tight around her, and her hair had come loose from its clip. "I left the keys," she said before I could speak. I saw. I meant what I said. If I'm done, I'm done. I remember. "Then why are you here?" I sat at the far end of the bench, leaving room enough for her to leave if she wanted. "Because being done with them doesn't mean you have to be alone with it."
She looked down at her hands. "They started the machine while I was still talking."
"I know."
"It felt like being erased in public." Her voice cracked on the last word, and she hated that it did. I could tell by the way she pressed her lips together. I wanted to take her hand. I did not. Instead, I said, "Tomorrow they're holding a farewell ceremony." She gave a bitter little smile. "For a woman who already left?" "For a woman who gets to decide whether that platform hears her voice one last time." "No, Caleb. Martin decides who gets the microphone." "No," I said gently. "He decides who gets permission. That's different." She turned toward me. "I won't drag you back," I said. "I won't ask you to perform your own hurt so the town can clap. But if you want to say goodbye by choice, not because they scripted it, I'll stand nearby." Nora stared out at the rails until the last red light disappeared into fog. "I'm scared," she whispered. "So am I." That made her look at me again. I gave a small shrug. "I've been scared since the day you sat in my father's chair and made the shop feel less like a waiting room." Her face softened, and for the first time, she reached across the space between us. She took my hand. It was not dramatic. Her fingers were cold. Mine were rough from tiny screws and brass dust. But she held on like she had made a decision and was testing whether it would hold. The next morning, the depot was crowded in a way I had not seen since the winter storm of 2014 stranded half the county under our roof. Martin had put the ribbon across the ticket window and arranged the cameras facing the new speaker. A poster beside him read, "Honouring service, welcoming tomorrow." Nora was not there. I stood beside the restored wooden bench with my notebook in my hand. Mrs. Hanley sat in the front row. The little girl with the yellow backpack stood beside her father. Mr. Avery leaned on his cane near the newspaper stand. Martin began his speech. "Today, we thank Nora Ellis for her years of service as we move confidently into a modern era." The crowd clapped politely. I heard the artificial voice test itself above us. "Welcome to Mercer Ridge Station." It got our town right that time. Somehow that made me angrier. Martin lifted ceremonial scissors toward the ribbon. Before he could cut it, I stepped forward. "I'm Caleb Morris," I said. Martin's eyes narrowed. "This is not part of the program." "No," I said. "That's why it might be useful." A few people turned toward me. My heart hit hard against my ribs, but I kept my voice even. "I fix clocks next door. That means I know the difference between something keeping time and something understanding what time means." The station went quiet. I looked at the crowd, not at the cameras. "When my father died, Nora announced the delayed evening train so my sister could make it here before the service. She didn't say why. She just made sure the conductor knew someone was trying to get home." Mrs. Hanley lifted her chin. "She tells me when to stand so I don't have to hurry." The father of the little girl raised his hand awkwardly. "She knows my daughter gets scared when they change platforms." Mr. Avery tapped his cane. "She says the track number twice for me." One by one, people spoke. Small memories, ordinary mercies, the kind no machine could measure, because no machine had ever watched a person's face change when they heard the word home. Then the side door opened. Nora stepped inside. She wore her grey cardigan and no badge. Her eyes moved over the crowd, then found me. I did not wave her forward. I did not ask anything of her. I only held up the notebook she had filled with all the human details they called inefficient. Martin looked trapped between irritation and a public relations disaster. "Ms. Ellis," he said tightly, "would you like to say a brief farewell?" Nora walked past him to the old microphone. She did not take the script. She looked at the timetable board, then at the wooden bench, then at the passengers who had carried pieces of her life back to her in their own voices. Her hand shook once when she touched the microphone. Then she steadied it herself. "Southbound train to Briar Junction," she said, her voice filling the depot warm and clear. "Arriving on track 2. If you're going to Millstone, Carver Falls or Elmsborough, stay aboard past the ridge. Mrs. Hanley, you have time. Mr. Avery, track 2. Yellow backpack. Your dad is by the newspaper stand." The little girl laughed. Nora smiled through tears she no longer tried to hide. "And for anyone coming home tired tonight," she said, "you're nearly there." The station clock chimed 7. This time it landed exactly on time. The railroad kept its automated system. I will not pretend one speech changed a company's plan, but it changed the ending they thought they had written for Nora. By the end of that month, the town council approved a small community travel desk inside the empty half of my clock shop. Not official railroad business, Martin made sure everyone knew that, but passengers came anyway for printed route notes, patient directions, lost ticket help, and the kind of welcome that did not come from a speaker mounted to the ceiling. Nora chose the desk herself. She put it near the front window, close enough to see the platform, far enough from the microphone that nobody could mistake her new life for a smaller version of the old one. The first morning she opened it, I set 2 mugs on the counter. This time, I did not put one back. Nora came in carrying a stack of route cards and a small brass nameplate she had ordered without telling me. It read, "Ellis and Morris, Time and Travel Help." I looked at it, then at her. "You put your name first." "You repair clocks," she said. "I handle departures. It seemed fair." "You sure about this?" She set the nameplate beside my register, then walked around the counter to where I stood. "I am not staying because I need a place to hide," she said. "I am staying because I want to build something here." "With me?" Her answer was not a speech. She took my hand in front of the shop window, in full view of the depot, the bench, the tracks, and anyone waiting for the next train. "With you." The evening train came in under a soft gold sky. The restored depot clock glowed above the wooden bench, steady and bright. Nora and I sat side by side with 2 coffee mugs between us, listening as the brakes sighed, the doors opened, and a tired traveller stepped onto the platform. Nora leaned close enough for her shoulder to touch mine. "Welcome home," she said. And for the first time in years, I believed the words were meant for me.